to share his thoughts.
Yes,
Hi,
Girisha
Girdhar
sir
sir.
also.
How are you? And welcome, sir, and thanks for joining. You can hear us, right? Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good
Jay,
afternoon,
we
sir.
are
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Sukanya.
hi. Jay, we are live now. We can start.
All right. Okay. So, hello and welcome to everyone. We have esteemed panelists, and I'll introduce all the panelists a little later. And basically, this is a webinar come official release of the report that we have done recently on transitioning to e-cooking for India. That we have our lead author with us also, Mr. Noble Verghese. And I co-authored that, and I kind of directed the research work. So yes, so the idea of the report is basically to understand how what could be the best way to reach the masses in terms of e-cooking as part of clean cooking initiatives. So basically, before we talk about the report, I would like to say a few words about CSE. So I think most of the people are aware of what CSE does and what CSE is. But just to be brief, CSE is a 40-year-old organization which basically looks into various aspects, environmental aspects, related to climate change, industrial pollution, renewable energy, food, and all the kinds of domains that fall into environmental sector. So we also play a watchdog kind of role and us to see as what's happening and what needs to be done further. And I am Jayachan Shiv, and I lead the renewable energy program here at CSE. So and the details of the CSE is obviously, if somebody wants to understand in more detail what CSE does, I'll welcome you, and I'd suggest everyone to please check the website of the CSE, wherein all our work is there, and we keep on writing. And also, one of the major work that we are into is technical, capacity building of the professionals on various domains and various kind of subject areas related to renewable energy, related to all other work that we are into. So we have a state-of-the-art training institute, training facility, which is located in Rajasthan. So that is where we conduct all our trainings and capacity buildings, research and publications are the domain areas of work that we do. So about this report on e-cooking basically talks about as to how to reach the masses in terms of e-cooking. So the report also kinds of provides certain highlights and insights into the cost benefit analysis, as to what would make more sense. But it doesn't necessarily argue that this e-cooking going forward will completely replace or substitute LPG, or even eliminate complete use of traditional biomass, because that is in the social fabric, that is part of the social fabric. And there are certain challenges related to socio-cultural behavior of the consumers, especially in rural areas, for which it becomes little difficult, or it will become little difficult for the traditional use of biomass to be eliminated completely from the picture. And yes, yes, and there are certain challenges and issues that we have highlighted in the report, related to the customization also, because rural cooking habits and eating habits are different. So the technology needs to cater to those kinds of needs in terms of customization of technologies, and also electricity. It would put an extra load on the overall electricity system, and overall including infrastructure, electricity infrastructure. Also, this in order to reach or penetrate considerable or significant level of rural consumers, there has to be some financial support from the government side as well, in order to make it to make it happen actually. And in the end, I would say there is a word of disclaimer that I would like to put about this report. That it basically, the estimates and the number that we have provided in the report are just indicative, and we would really welcome, the feedback and the inputs and valuable insights from everyone, whoever wants to read it, and observes this, if there is some kind of an improvement that can be done further to the report, in terms of, maybe inconsistency in numbers or data or analysis. So please flag it to us, and we'll definitely do the course correction, and will improve the publication. So with this, I would like to I'd like all the I'd request all the panelists to, basically, whoever has the hard copy, to please display this on your screen, so that we can officially release this. Although this report is on our website since December 21st, so it's been over a month now that this report is out, but this is the official release of the report that we want to kind of, yes. So this is the report that we have done, and I hope you find it worth reading and insightful. So,
Congratulations, Noble.
and with this, we officially release this report. Yes. All right. Okay. And thank you so much. And because we have really, little time, and we have, so many guest speakers and eminent panelists to listen to. So, without further ado, I'd like basically to invite my colleague Vineet, who is the program manager at CSE, to just give a short kind of overview presentation of the report, to talk about what it contains and what it wants to say, followed by the very insightful talks from our esteemed panelists. So, Vineet, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jai, for that brief overview and opening remarks. And just let me know if the presentation slide is visible to all.
Yes, we can see it. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just a second. Yeah, thank you, Jay, for your opening remarks. So this report mainly talks about the India's transitions to clean cooking, and particularly the e-cooking, which the objective of this report was to create an opportunities and discuss the challenges and various roadmap for the large scale adaptations. So essentially what happens, let me give you a background, is access to clean cooking has been on the radar of policymakers, central and state government, and various researchers, specifically NGOs in India, for several decades. Around a third of world populations right now, 2.4 billion people globally, and about 500 million people in India still lacks to clean cooking solutions. Approximately 3 million people globally and about 0.6 million people in India dies prematurely every year because of indoor air pollution. So these deaths are mostly caused by firewood cooking. So there is a need to shift from burning cooking, household burning wood, cow dung, and other biomass-based cooking. So how India cooks. Right now, LPG has been one of the most subsidized commodities in India since it was introduced in 1970s. It is one of the most expensive commodity for the national exchequers. Data from only the last 10 years that we have analyzed indicate that the government has spent approximately rupees 3.21 lakh crore in LPG subsidies for urban and rural populations. So dependence on LPG export results in significant financial burden of the country's foreign reserves, with cost increasingly substantially over the past 15 years at an average year-to-year increment of approximately 27%, which comes around 21% of CAGR. So it is also to be noted that over the last decade, the dependence of LPG imports has increased at a randomly slower pace at a CAGR of just 10%. Adaptations in rural India, rural India was comparatively low as the initial cost of the connections were high for the rural households. So in 1990s, getting an LPG connections was more a privilege reserved for wealthy households rather than a public good made for available. So although uh, as per the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas claims that the 90 countries household LPG coverage around 99.8%, but as per the survey conducted by India's National Family Health in 2019 and 2021, it shows that 41% of the population still cooks on biomass. CSC's own calculations, we have found that this could be around 41% cumulatively. So essentially, this emits around 340 million ton of carbon dioxide into the environment every year, which is about 13% of India's national greenhouse gas emission. It is also noted that over the last decade, the dependence of LPG imports has increased at a relatively slower pace, at a CAGR of just 10%. The trends the trends that here in the graph we have shown is in import expenditure of LPG over the past 5 years. However, suggest a significant increase in import of LPG with an average year-to-year expenditure increment of around 20%. So, if this trend continues, our analysis, as shown is in this particular figure, which is most of the conservative estimates, LPG import would around 25 lakh crores during 2023 to 2038, with an annual increment
sir.
of 5
Right, sir.
5.4% CAGR of around 5%. Alternatively, if the year-on-year expenditure towards LPG imports growth around 10.75%, with a CAGR of 10%, then we can see that the figure goes to around 40 lakh crore, which will be needed to meet the LPG demand of the country. If now the dependence of the import of LPG requirement can be curtailed to reduce the financial burden and can limit to the CAGR of 15% as against 21% over the past 15 years. Even then, the estimate cost of LPG import of next 15 years is staggering rupees 65 lakh crore. So e-cooking technology must evolve to meet the diverse need of rural consumers, primarily in India, where cooking habits varies by region to region. Customized solutions are needed to address community-specific requirement, offering choices, particularly in e-cook stoves and cookware regarding energy efficiency and durability. So these optimizations can elevate peak electrical loads, reduce financial strain on the consumers and utilities, and enhance electricity distribution infrastructure. Currently, in market, what we have seen that lack of diversity and fail to cater the rural demands. But e-cooking costs are expected to rival LPG despite these limitations. So needless to mention, the program would require a large capital investment from the private sector beside expenditure from the government. So in the report, an estimate suggests that the aggressive scenario will require about a capital subsidy of about 47,000 crore, which is going to invest over 16 years, for next 16 years, towards supporting the rural consumers. And if this subsidy is continued for 4 more years, it would cost the exchequer a sum of around 4.3 lakh crore for 100% penetrations of e-cooking from the 16th year onwards. So the barrier what in this report has been discussed is affordability is one of the most critical factors in encouraging adaptations of clean cooking solutions in India. But unfortunately, because of apparent high costs and availability issues, electric cooking has been accessible to only the higher economic classes of people in India in the recent past. Just to give you a price idea, a typical cook stove which we get from the market, by the most popular brand, for example, Prestige, which owns about 60% of the market share, cost around 1800 to 4500 for a single plate model, and it goes up with a multi-plate and dual plate model as well. So although multiple government subsidies and financing mechanism exist in the distributions and adaptations of LPG for both rural and urban household, uh, the clean cooking solutions like e-cooking have not found any buyers in India's small finance and other NBFC institutions. Recently, we have seen that EESL announced a subsidy of on the distribution of induction cooktop for approximately 20,000 rural households, but this has been replaced. This has been like adopted by other several government agencies, but till date, we have seen no such replications has been happening in the market, or it has not been adopted by any government agencies. Uh, Next, we have grid complexities. The quality and the reliability of the power supply in rural India is one of the biggest impediment to the adaptations of clean cooking in rural India. Several studies have documented frequent power outages across the country, including in major cities. Even in areas where government report indicates minimal deficits, there are like several hours of power outages. Uh, there are multiple devices that can come under the categories of small electric kitchen appliances, cooking device such as induction cook stove, microwave oven, electric rice cooker, make up like these are all the subcategories. Altogether they account approximately close to 60% of the Indian kitchen appliances market. Food processing device such as mixer, grinder, juicers, and other popular subcategories are make up in the largest market share in the electric kitchen appliances in India. But only about 5% of the Indian population has adopted e-cooking till date. The difference is stark between the urban and the rural geographies. Roughly 10% of the urban population use some kind of e-cooking device as compared to only about 2.7% of the annual 2.7% of the rural population. Here we have done a stakeholder mapping analysis. Let me zoom just to show to our viewers. I don't know whether it will be clearly visible, but it is already there in the report. One can download and have a clear look. So the complex and the large spectrum of these issues that are related to the e-cooking that need to be solved for large-scale e-cooking adoptions, especially for rural areas, need all relevant stakeholders from a wide array of expertise to work together towards this particular single cause. So CSC deliberate with various stakeholders to understand and comprehensively map their interlinkages and their criticality to the success of e-cooking adaptations in India. So in this exercise, we laid out all the cross-functional stakeholders of the e-cooking sector in one place. The main benefit was to get a visual representations of all the decision maker influencers who could impact e-cooking adaptations in India, understanding how they are connected to each other and how they could benefit themselves from the adaptations of e-cooking. So a scoring system was developed to categorize each stakeholder's importance to large-scale e-cooking adaptations, and each of was scored on the basis of criticality to the success of the program, investment potential of the program, scale and influence, scale of influence on the other stakeholders to get their buy-in, alignment with their values and end goals, which includes climate goals and other energy goals like NDCs. So given the kind of a narrative that cooking with electricity can be expensive, we estimated and compared the cost of ownership of LPG, traditional wood stoves, electric induction cooktop, So over a period of 1 year, 5 year, and 10 year to get a better understanding. So what we found over the course of 5 years and 10 years, the cost of ownership of the cooking with electricity was about 20% lower than with the LPG cost. But with comparable to it, over the first year, traditional firewood, uh, traditional wood burning cook stove was, as expected, the lowest cost in terms of the ownership and usage. For our estimation, we assumed that in a typical year, an average Indian households across all the geographics would need approximately the same amount of food and the same amount of energy to cook their food, no matter what kind of fuel they used. Secondly, we looked at available informations on LPG and calculated the amount of energy consumed in LPG cooking in a typical year to estimate the amount of the energy needed if other fuels were used. With in this case where wood and electricity was the secondary sources. We also include initial cost of each kind of cooking, namely LPG cooktop, that is around 1500, wood burning stove, which is 200 rupees, double plate induction cooktop, for example, for 4,000 rupees, with an utensil cost of 1500, 250, and 2050 for each of this other LPG connection costs. So these were all the one-time costs that affected 1 year of total cost of the ownership. Cost dropped significantly, as we can see in the chart, over a period of time, and e-cooking becomes 17% cheaper than LPG over 5 years, and over 20 years, 20% in the 10th year. So, however, it must be kept in mind that these projections have not factored in the rising the rising gas price, and the inflations. Uh, So our indicative analysis suggests that e-cooking can achieve 100% penetrations with regard to rural households in 16 years if a year-on-year coverage increment of 50%, like on an aggressive roadmap, is adopted by the country. In such a scenario, in the base year of 2024, a coverage of only 0.1%, that is 2 lakhs of the total rural household, is needed. Thereafter, each year adding 15% of the preceding year's coverage annually will help the coverage before the end of 2039. So regarding the subsidies, it is needless to mention that the program would require a huge investment and expenditure from the government as well as the private sector. According to our model projections that Noble has already done in the report, a conservative estimate suggests that the aggressive scenario will require a capital subsidy of at least 47,000 crore over 16 years towards a 30% subsidy on the initial cost of e-cooking devices, and compatible utensils are required. So this comes to a subsidy of 1,800 per household level, and will be a one-time subsidy offered at a starting, like to start with the e-cooking. So the success of any goal or any project is only possible with good leadership accountability. Unless there is someone responsible for the success of the project, no one can held accountable for its failure. So as elaborated in the stakeholder mapping and the analysis in the earlier slide, there were various government entities that have differing levels of experience and expertise in implementing aspects of the e-cooking program, as well as varying level of investment in it. Last but not the least, the community need to be involved from the start in the distributions and monitoring mechanism. Since the primary user of any such solutions in uh, rural India are women, solutions need to cater to their needs, both in terms of technology as well as policy. So in this report, uh, it does not aim to present the grid complexities and associate economic implications in detail with regard to the overall improvement in infrastructure for electricity distribution, capacity additions and power generations required to meet the electricity demand from e-cooking. Indicatively, however, according to our projections, it is estimated that 100% penetrations of e-cooking with any of the three growth scenarios, as you can see in this chart, will present a peak electricity demand of about 320 gigawatt for 100% rural coverage. Of this, 75% can be managed with adequate load scheduling and demand management, while an additional capacity of 80 gigawatt would be needed to meet the remaining 25% of the peak demand over a period of 16 to 22 years. So beginning with the capacity additions of 75 in the first year, 113 megawatt in the second year, and 169 megawatt in the third year. So on and until till the 16th year, we have a projections for that. So to promote the electric cooking adaptations in India, the following bullets are recommended for the next step, like to assign the ministry department to steer adaptations of e-cooking in India and set up a new divisions under a existing ministry. Improve the grid capability in both rural and urban context, both of which have separate challenges related to e-cooking, to support at least 70% of e-cooking adaptations in household over the next decade. Decarbonizing the grid quickly and include battery storage to enable peak time cooking on the electricity. It is also recommended that a separate study should be carried out focusing on the impact of e-cooking on the overall energy generations and supply system in the country. So we can encourage and increase investment in indigenous R&D to develop India's relevant, affordable, low power e-cooking devices to cater various cooking needs. Encourage the local manufacturing for mobilizing NBFCs and banks to lend for e-cooking usage, adaptations, retailing and manufacturing. There can be a mandate of e-cooking in commercial establishment and large kitchen as well. Integrating behaviors change campaign at a national scale in any e-cooking program implementations. We can include communities, especially women-led organizations, where designing any rural e-cooking implementations program. And finally, we can implement standardizations and labeling for e-cooking devices and recommendations. I think my colleague Neha from CLASP India, she can enlighten us about these areas because she's working closely with the PE and BIS. With that, I would like to thank all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Thanks, Beneath. Thank you so much. Yeah, we really have a positive time. So otherwise, we would have we would love to get into much details of this. But yes, let's hear from our eminent guest speakers. So with this, I would like to invite Dr. Debajit to offer his thoughts on the subject. So we'll take care of the questions in the end of the session. Provided we have some time left in the end. But let's hear from Dr. Debajit. Yeah, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jay, and thank you, Vineet, for a very comprehensive presentation. Must appreciate that.
Sir, 10 minutes लगेगी मेरे को.
Yeah.
10 minutes, sir. About 10 minutes.
Must appreciate that about the work that you have done. Congratulations for this one. I think it's great to see that electric cooking is getting traction in India, both from the government side and also by different other stakeholders, including research organizations. I think I remember writing about electric cooking something around 5 years back when there was not much of, or 5 or 6 years back, and not much of traction at that time. this one, but it's great to see a lot of traction happening. So the government is also, well, I don't represent the government, I represent the NTPC School of Business, this one, but I must appreciate that the government has also been focusing on electric cooking, and it all started with the Niti Aayog in this draft energy policy clearly mentioning about electrifying rural energy demand. This one, and I feel electric cooking is a big thing on that electrifying rural energy demand this one program. This one. Later on, I think in 2021, February 2021 to be precise, the government also launched the Go Electric campaign, though I have my own some reservations about it. I will discuss, I think I will share about it. And then very recently, the National Efficient Cooking Program has been launched in 2023. This one. So from the government side, the government is also doing a lot of things, and very clearly, the additional secretary to the Ministry of Power, I'm quoting him, and he in one of the conferences mentioned that electric cooking is going to be the future of Indian kitchen. I think that's a very encouraging statement from additional secretary of the Ministry of Power. This one, and e-cooking is key to the pathway to the Mission Life program. So these are very encouraging statements. But Vineet mentioned about some data. So let me give some data. I think we are not. It's not that electric cooking is not progressing, or induction stoves are not being sold in the country. 5 million stoves. The yearly sales is about 5 million stoves. Of course, India is a vast country, and with a CAGR of 10%, which is pretty good. But of course, to achieve the S curve, I think the CAGR has to go as high as 20-25%, and that's when we'll say that the scaling up has started to happen. Thanks to ESL for launching this 20 lakh e-stoves program. I think the Girija Shankarji would throw more light on that, so I'm not touching it. The Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas constituted a committee, and the committee felt that 25% of the cooking devices should be electric by 2030. While everybody, we also had a lot of discussion on that in some of the conferences, whether 25% can be achieved or not. I personally feel that in a business as usual, with the CAGR of 10% for induction stove, 25% is a very small number. This one, with increasing population and with a CAGR of 10%, I think 25% can be easily achieved. This one, so we should actually think maybe 40% or 50%, something like that. This one, that would be an aspirational target. This 25% is not at all aspirational. This one, but having said all this and positive things, I think there are challenges. The first challenge about the Go Electric, and I said I have some reservation in the sense that Go Electric had two components, electric cooking and electric vehicle. And I think electric vehicle is the more cooler thing than electric cooking for the campaign manager. So probably electric vehicle is getting much more traction than electric cooking under the program. This one, that's my view. That means probably with the National Efficient Cooking Program, probably electric cooking will also start getting that traction. But still, electric vehicles appears to be more cool than electric cooking. This one. Secondly, I think one area where we are not, and I have gone through what the last conference on electric cooking during the World Environment Day in 2023, what the government officials have been talking, and I have seen, and one thing that everybody is saying that about behavioral change, about Vineet also mentioned about the power outages and all these things. I think what is the most important part of it probably is that if everybody starts using electric cooking, or say 50% of the households in peri-urban areas starts using electric cooking, is our grid network adequate and sufficient to take that load? This is exactly what happened in Odisha and Kerala and other places a decade back, when the government actually banned electric cooking. So have we graduated from that grid system to a better grid system? This is a fundamental question. The second question is about the government is implementing the RDSS program, the Revamped Distribution Sector Scheme. Now, any distribution sector scheme is for, say, if you construct a distribution line, it is for 25 to 30 years. Now, is electric cooking been modeled into the RDSS scheme so that whatever grid infrastructure is being developed across the country with a lot of money being spent, are we taking that enhanced load that might come with electric cooking? If not, then these transformers will not work. They will all get burnt in the peri-urban and rural areas. Urban area is not a problem, this one, but in the peri-urban and rural areas, this will all get burnt. This one. So these are some fundamental questions which I think the government probably is not discussing that they should discuss. We're talking about behavioral change. These are also important, but I think more infrastructural discussion should take place at the government level. Let the civil society organization take care of the awareness related to behavioral change and other things. The government cannot change the behavior. This one. So I think this one, the supply chain models of electric cooking are weak. We have done, while I was in TERI, we have done projects in Himachal, and we have found that people preferring local electric induction stove rather than a branded stove, because the branded stove doesn't have a supply chain network in the rural areas, because the transaction cost is high. And if something goes wrong, then how do you get it rectified? So how we can create a common supply chain in the villages so that transaction cost is low and we can still provide the service. So what we are doing about that? This one, the after sale service is missing. Talked about the standards, I think. So for electric cooking, the induction stoves may have standard. I think BE is also going to come out with some rating, star rating for the electric stoves. But at the same time, we are talking about moving towards a renewable energy, primarily solar. Solar is DC. Can we have DC electric stoves, and what should be the standards for the solar-based DC electric stoves? So I am part of the low voltage DC LVDC committee, the low voltage DC systems group in BIS, and this is one of the agendas that we are planning to take up on how to develop standards for this one, DC electric cooking appliances, especially those that run with solar. And the last point that I would like to make is that we are talking that means we are definitely talking much about induction stove. Induction stove has its own advantages and disadvantages, that you cannot go beyond a certain lower limit of power, which can help you in cooking your food. So can we shift to other type of appliances? I remember I'm part there is a organization or a program by the name of Modern Energy Cooking Program, MECS, and they introduced a electric pressure cooker. Now, this electric pressure cooker could be is consuming lesser electricity, and also the wattage is the load is low than the induction stove. So can we have such type of other appliances which can run on at a lower load and consume lesser energy but producing the same outcome? So whether we are doing enough R&D on having such type of appliances or not, this one. Instead of battery-based charging, or rather the storage, can we have thermal storage? Are we doing enough for thermal storage? I remember being part of a jury, and we did, I think that's about 3 years back. And at that time, there was not enough applicants coming with some innovative solutions. So I think the research institutes also has a big role to play this one, because we cannot expect the government doing everything. The government can make a policy, can provide some incentives, but I think it is important for the R&D institutes, the standards institute, the civil society organizations, the research and policy think tank, to all create that traction about electric cooking, so that across the value chain, the things can develop in a much faster way. We cannot wait for the government to make a policy and then do R&D. Right? We have to do R&D based on the current whatever policies and programs are there, and then show the government that this is something, a viable solution. Why don't you make a policy? My former boss is Dr. Ajay Mathur, who is with direct DG of International Solar Alliance, and he always used to say, and still he says this one thing, that we should first try to have a technology that works. If we can prove a technology, then there should be a business model around the technology. And once we can prove the business model, then the role of the government comes in to develop a policy to scale up the model. So unless we have a technology and a business model around the technology, the government role still is very minimal, because the government can only make a policy to scale up the model. So I think I will stop here with his word that probably we have a technology, but we need more to develop a technology, and most importantly, a business model around that technology. And of course, the government has a big role to play to provide the additional support about grid infrastructure, about making policies, standardization, creating financial model, and so on and so forth. So I will stop here so we can take up questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for very insightful words, So yes, in the end, as you rightly pointed out, it has to be that model, which I would like to call it TMG model: technology, market, and then government. So that is how probably, it should work. And if it has to work, this model should be adopted, as you rightly mentioned. So thank you, but my apologies, I didn't introduce Dr. Debajit in the beginning when I invited him for the talk. So let me please correct my mistake, and let me introduce Dr. Debajit has over 26 years of experience in renewable energy, and he is a top 2% scientist ranked by Stanford University for 4 consecutive years. And he is a professor at NTPC School of Business, Noida, and he was director and senior fellow at TERI earlier. Dr. Pandit led TERI's Rural Energy and Livelihood Division and served as visiting faculty at Anand Fellowship for Climate Action, and is Vice President Honorary of the Indian Association of Energy Economics. He is Associate Editor of Energy for Sustainable Development, and currently a member of Low Voltage DC Distribution System Sectional Committee, and authored 3 books and 150 research papers on energy-related topics. So that is tremendous, sir. And thank you so much for your insightful talk. With this, once again, I would like to say, we'll take up the questions in the end, because we have more speakers. So with this, I would like to invite Shri Girija Shankar ji, who is the General Manager Technical at Energy Efficiency Services Limited, and would be talking about market and mechanisms for technology penetration for large-scale transition to e-cooking in rural India. So to introduce him, Mr. Girija Shankar, he received the undergraduate degree in electrical engineering.
I will introduce myself.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thanks for providing this opportunity and discussing with the others gathering. So myself, Girija Shankar, General Manager in ESL, and we are working on this MECS program, modern energy cooking solutions for the Indian aspects. Already Ministry of Power has launched this National Clean Cooking Program, and there may be the multiple options. I thanks a lot to you as well as your entire team to bring out this study in a very relevant time page and also capture most of the data. I'm not going in much detail because I have noted down many things which I may discuss separately with you and your team, and provide more insight about what should be in the report and what should be the correctness on the data, which sources you can be referred. I just broadly gives maybe the overall.
To briefly interrupt you, may I request you to please turn on the camera so that the audience can.
So, sir, I am I think, currently entering in one of the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the cab. Earlier, I was sitting in my home. My cabin.
No worries, sir.
Today in the Bhubaneswar, and primarily maybe one of the aspect is this clean cooking is also here. So I just give the brief about what the further should be incorporated in reports. The data captured from your team is very well. They have analyzed in a good manner. One aspect relevant to the multiple cooking solutions, what the Debajit ji also has highlighted here. So induction cooking may be the one option, but there are other, maybe the electric pressure cooker and the other aspects. Maybe my minor or a small fractions you can capture in your report. Second, although you have highlighted the some portion for the air pollution or the indoor, maybe the kitchen pollutions you have captured, but it would be nice if you can capture some of the international I think publications are available. What sort of the reduction in these gases and how this will affect uh, uh, the human life or primarily the woman that needs to be captured. Thirdly, related to the market transformation, although you have given the 16-year projections how the rural clean cooking can be transformative. My submission is that we should also capture the role of rural livelihood missions, where the NGOs and the self-help groups that can play a major role. And this induction cook stove, if we see that it is a very simplified device and a very robust device itself, but these self-help groups can create some entrepreneurship and they can provide a very value-added services after the cell service. So the manufacturers, although they have their network, but it would be nice that in each rural areas and the township, SRLMs may play a major role, and that needs to be captured in the report, and they can also play a good role in the terms of the employment generation and the business generations. What Devajit has mentioned, that induction cook is not gaining the momentum and the EV is getting the momentum. It lies primarily because of the opportunity and the volume of the amount of investment in the EV in respect to the with respect to the cooking. But nevertheless, the cooking is a very, very essential element and it directly affects the many lives of the women or the who are associated with the cooking. So we may consider the multiple option and that needs to be captured in your report. I also wish if your team can join hand together with the some maybe medical pathological labs, how the um, uh, maybe the elements, the bacteria and other things may be reduced down on account of reduction in the CO2 and the other nitrogen and sulfuric oxide which are coming because of the biomass based cooking or maybe also the fossil based LPG and PNG cooking. So that needs to be captured. Maybe the last I just want to highlight that if we go for the clean cooking, so there should be association with the solar or the PV. If it can be compatible or we provide a supplement to this clean cooking movement, then it may be really a 100% clean cooking can be ensured, and that is the last ultimate aim of the government of India. That uh, recently Prime Minister is going to be launched the Suryodaya Yojana, where the 1 to 3 kilowatts solar rooftops can be blended in that part. So these are I think the points from my side. And I am just stopping. I think, entering into some of the another meeting, not be able to continue here. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And all the points well taken, and we'll try and definitely incorporate all the suggestions in our report, maybe in the next edition of the report, because this is already out. So we'll definitely start working on the next edition of the report, taking cues from your recommendations. And then, so yes, the last point you mentioned about, integrating or looking at e-cooking from or integrating with Suryodaya Yojana, which is basically the logical kind of progression of this entire program. So Suryodaya Yojana kind of integrating all the energy needs, at rural level as well as at household level. So that definitely presents a really good opportunity for integration as far as e-cooking is concerned, and that will take off a considerable load, of the grid as well, as sir also talked about, Debajit sir, the grid complexities, which we haven't covered in that kind of depth in our report, because that probably, we thought to save it for later. And there are other kind of, technical experts out there who can definitely work, who can probably work, in a more better way and far better understanding on the technical aspects of grid and its, the load on the grid. So that's why we haven't touched in that, great detail in our report. But yes, we have mentioned, we have kind of indicatively covered it. So these are some of the aspects that we need to really look into going forward. And thanks, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's really a busy kind of time with now launching of that 1 lakh, Indian cook stove, Indian cooktop kind of, tender and everything going on in tandem, Suryodaya Yojana, and then e-cooking, and then all those sorts of things. Everything, happening at one, in tandem. So it's really busy time for everyone. So thank you so much, however, for taking time off to be in this webinar, sir. Thank you so much. So with this out, if I would kind of like to invite Ms. Neha Dhingra, who is the Senior Manager, India Program. She works for CLASP, and she would basically be talking about energy efficiency and technology customization in e-cooking for Indian rural households. And I would like to also to introduce her, Neha, if you don't mind, or would you like to introduce yourself?
I think it's fine. You can carry on and then I'll start here.
All right. So just yeah, a line of introduction. So Ms. Neha Dhingra is a senior manager at CLASP, where she leads overall management and execution of program activities. Neha has worked across a range of energy efficiency and clean energy access issues across India, Southeast Asia, and West Africa. And she has extensive experience in appliance energy efficiency standards and labeling, with a specific interest and expertise in policy and regulatory analysis, compliance policy design, and institutional capacity building. Neha also manages relationships with the key partners, including governments, civil societies, and international organizations, to implement ambitious appliances energy efficiency policies for high priority appliances. So over to you, Neha.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jay. First of all, I'd like to congratulate CSE for carrying out this study and coming out with the findings and basically reiterating that there is a need for development of a roadmap for e-cooking for India. Cooking is a subject, as we all know, which cuts across not just clean energy and energy efficiency, but several other sustainable development indicators. And I think this is one subject which cuts across most sustainable development indicators, if not all. So if you look at gender equality, air pollution, health, drudgery, energy excess, climate vulnerability, it basically touches upon each of them. And it's a subject which disproportionately affects women and children, so thereby bringing in the equity as well as gender aspects again. So I'll start with sharing some findings from a study that we conducted in Europe. The findings are pretty similar. There, the focus was more towards transitioning from gas-based cooking to e-cooking. And it was established through the study as well as from several other research assessments that the air pollution from gas cooking appliances is also very harmful, and it can cause respiratory, mental, and other health risks. So here, we are at a stage where we're talking about transitioning from biomass-based to e-cooking versus LPG, while in the study that we conducted in Europe, there was a clear case of transition from indoor air pollution caused by gas, and then the need for transition towards e-cooking. It was also established there, similar to the study that CSE has conducted, that the total cost of ownership for electric cooking appliances is significantly lower if we look at the life cycle of the appliance. So that also gets substantiated. Now, coming to India's point of view. So transition to e-cooking is very important because it provides opportunity, not just for meeting some of all of those indicators that I just mentioned, but also for meeting net zero goals that India has. So based on some of the work that we have done thus far and based on our understanding, we believe that for enabling e-cooking transition in India, a phased approach may be required. because because of the several factors that were just stated before I started speaking, like Mr. Debajit Palit spoke at length about the grid infrastructure, reliability, potential impact on the grid and its readiness, the consumer behavior, because cooking is very personalized subject. So we need to change that. And there is servicing ecosystem, there's cooking pattern that needs to be established. Then there's need for financing. Anytime there's a change in technology, we need to kind of establish upfront, whether it's upfront financing or whether it's subsidies or incentives, in order to kind of navigate or basically nudge the market towards e-cooking. So these factors need to be kind of brought in. So therefore, I believe that there's a phased approach that may be required. Couple of thoughts there. Because of better electricity access and reliability in urban areas, it may be better to start with an immediate urban penetration goal, which could yield some import reduction benefits, as CSE has highlighted in their study. There's a lot of private sector which is transitioning towards e-cooking, so it may be good to tap and start with institutional buyers such as hotels, hospitals, large institutional kitchens, and then in the more mid-term scale, so to a time frame, so to say, expanded to urban households. And because the grid reliability is a bit of an issue at this point in the rural areas, so in the longer time frame, targeting rural household will be very crucial if we have to expand the overall network. And overall, that's kind of one approach that could work, which is basically a staged and a phased approach to enable overall e-cooking transition. And the CSE study also kind of highlighted that e-cooking is cheaper than the LPG-based cooking. Also, if we take into account air quality and greenhouse gas benefits, then these interventions can have significant payback. Like if there's one aspect which is the economic payback, and then if we take into account social cost, then the benefits could be huge. But of course, if we have to kind of drive that, then there's some nudge that might be needed in terms of governmental policies in order to drive the adoption. And if I have to talk about energy efficiency, then it is of course a key factor, because with the same amount of electricity, we may be able to supply e-cooking services to more households, thereby increasing energy access. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the programs that have been launched in India, particularly by Bureau of Energy Efficiency on efficiency labeling. So labeling program for induction cook stoves was launched last year. At this point, the program covers single hob induction cook stoves, because that's where 95% of the market lies. However, if we have to talk about scalability and transition to exclusive e-cooking, because I saw in one of the slides that 60% of the households have some or the other e-cooking appliances, but then the adoption is not as much, like exclusive transition. Then we need to also take into account multi-hob induction cook stoves into the fold of the program, as well as we have to increase its adoption, because that's the only way that, through which an exclusive transition is possible. Then BEE also has a labeling program for microwave oven. It's been a couple of years that the program was launched under voluntary phase. Now, starting this year, the program will also transition to mandatory phase. What this means is that all the microwave ovens that get sold into the market, it will be mandatory for them to carry a label. And there's a discussion about rice cookers and other electrical appliances, which has already happened. So I would not kind of talk about that again. And in order to also drive the market forward, so building on BEE's labeling program, ESL also launched Market Transformation Initiative, not just for electric cook stoves, but also solar-based cook stoves, which is again like, a great effort in terms of green, promoting green cooking. So all in all, I would say that there's need to have a holistic sectoral roadmap wherein a phased approach could be adopted, looking into all the different aspects, including energy efficiency, including energy transition, energy access, consumer behavior, and financing, as well as grid reliability. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you so much. Just one question from my side, though. As you mentioned, we have to look at the host of the technology options and the products and the devices or equipment, cookware. So, but from the power rating perspective, whatever is out there in the market is 1.5 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, or maybe 1.2 kilowatt, as Devajit sir also mentioned, and in his remarks, is there anything that CLASP is working on based on DC based appliances in this? In from R&D perspective, does CLASP have a role to play in that kind of activities?
So we've done some work on clean cooking, especially in the DC segment in Bangladesh as well as in Africa, but there hasn't been a whole lot of work that has been done in India in that segment because the market isn't as much in our understanding at this point. If it grows, then of course there's need to take it into the fold of the program. The whole premise of the labeling program is that if the idea of investment into a government policy is if the market is going to scale up to a particular size and portion and number, and there's an opportunity for energy and efficiency savings, then a government brings in the policy. So if there is data, if there are stats which talk about the need and the demand and the growth for this segment as well, then of course we'll be happy to work with you and others to kind of promote that or bring it up to BEE to formulate a labeling program.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. So yes, thanks, Neha, for the kind words, and basically yes, this kind of publication has taken a lot of effort to go through the analysis, the data, and the numbers, and probably considerable time as well for us to be able to come out with this publication. So we hope it really makes some kind of inroads into thinking as to how to take e-cooking to masses, especially in rural areas where indoor air pollution is one of the main causes of the sufferings of rural women. So that was the primary objective, as to how to look into this. And yes, with input from various stakeholders, we have been able to come out and kind of put together the pieces that we could. But yes, there is a lot to work in terms of implementation, in terms of kind of penetration. There is a lot to work, and there are a whole lot of stakeholders that need to come together to make it really an implementation worthy initiative to say. And I think ESL has already starting to kind of demonstrate their commitment towards this cause. So thanks to you also, thanks to ESL and everybody who is involved in taking forward this work, and we'll definitely see some results going forward, maybe a few years down the line, as to where we are going to reach. So with this, we have Mr. KG George, who is the Senior Vice President Retail of TTK Prestige. We mentioned Prestige as one of the leading brands of induction cook stove with about 60% market share. So we have we are we have this opportunity to have him talk about their experience and how kind of ready the manufacturing sector is, appliance manufacturing sector is in terms of promoting the Make in India brand and meet this enormous kind of demand that also would definitely come up with certain challenges. So we'd love to hear from Mr. KG George. And just to give you a brief introduction of Mr. George, he is a mechanical engineer, and he had a management degree from IIM Bangalore, and he has over 30 years of work experience in sales, marketing, and retail. Mr. George has been with TTK Prestige Limited for the past 25 years, and he has handled various assignments in the company. He currently serves as Senior Vice President, Retail and Alternate Channels, spearheading the company's foray into retail and developing alternate conventional channels like e-commerce to cater to rural markets as well. So he has been personally responsible for TTK Prestige foray into retail with exclusive Prestige Smart Kitchen stores, being India's largest standalone kitchenware retailers with 650 plus stores across 400 towns. Quite remarkable, yes. And he has also been responsible for the company's aggressive play in the e-commerce space with a combination of selling through aligned sellers and being a seller directly in various marketplaces. So, Mr. George, welcome, and Thanks for being here, and over to you, sir. Would really like to hear, as to how Make in India brand is going to work out in this particular space.
Thank you for the introduction. First of all, our market share is 30%, not 60%. We are the market leaders, and we have a market share of around 30%, which is by far ahead of anyone else. So I'd just like to make a few points after hearing all the other panelists. We are the only company in India where the induction cooktop is manufactured in India. So it's largely 100% made in India. Few of the IGBTs come from China, but otherwise everything else is done in India. We took a conscious decision to stop all imports from China. What we are doing to promote the concept of e-cooking, first of all, we have tried to design the induction cooktop in such a way that it's suited for Indian conditions. With a lot of voltage fluctuations earlier, when induction cooktops were launched in 2003, we had a lot of issues of voltage fluctuations and the device giving way. So we have worked out design corrections in the induction cooktop to make it suitable for Indian conditions. We have a host of Indian menus also in our advanced induction cooktops. And we have been working with EESL and with other organizations to promote the concept of e-cooking. We do a lot of business with microfinance companies. Someone talked about the finance. So we do work with microfinance companies where induction cooktops are given to marginalized sections of society on installments by the microfinance company. That is for profit. They do charge an interest, but it makes induction cooktops, branded induction cooktops, accessible to customers who would never have been able to buy a brand in the first place. And let me just tell you what also we are working on, very interesting proposition where actually by selling induction cooktops, you can get access to carbon credits. And what we are trying to do, we are working with it's not a government initiative, it's a initiative with some social organizations, whereby we are trying to subsidize the cost of the induction cooktop to the end user through the carbon credits which will accrue to us. So basically a beneficiary pays roughly 1/3 of the cost of the induction cooktop. The balance 2/3 comes back to us in the form of the carbon credits over a period of time, so that it becomes more affordable and self-sustainable program, which today you're dependent on government subsidies. And so we are working with this. We are in the process of making a project report, and we are working with one of the leading social organizations of Europe and trying to make it's a three-way partnership with an organization in India who will be the implementing partner, will be the manufacturer, and the social organization from Europe will also be a part of this program. What we are also trying to do, Mr. Devaji talked about it, service. So when you have an electrical device, service is going to be a challenge. So what we have done is, based on our experience with microfinance companies which work in very interior rural areas in the rural hinterland, we have established service centers. So our objective is every 100 kilometers, we should have a service center, so that not only for the induction cooktops, but for all our electrical devices, that service can be there. So we are ready as a responsible manufacturer to invest in after-sales service so that there can be a faster adoption of such a device. So these are the sort of initiatives. We are working very closely with EESL. We have developed metered devices whereby for getting the carbon credit, you have to prove that there is a saving in energy, in the energy cost of the household, and is replacing something like a gas. So we have developed metered devices where you can monitor the consumption of electricity. One is a metered device where someone goes and takes the reading. Another is an IoT-enabled metered device whereby by remote the readings can be taken. So we have done this post our discussions with the EESL and working with some other organizations so that this program can be taken forward. So that's all from the manufacturer's perspective, and we are committed to this cause of promoting electric cooking in an aggressive manner. Thank you.
So, Mr. George, we couldn't hear the last part you said because there was some technical glitch. Yeah.
So we are committed to promoting electric cooking in an aggressive manner and working with government and private players so that there can be a faster adoption of electric cooking in the country today. One more point I'd like to make. A gas stove is only 70% efficient, whereas an induction cooktop is 85 to 90% efficient. Not only about the clean energy, but the fact that it also is a much more efficient way of cooking compared to a conventional cooking.
Right. So, yes. So basically, sir, you mentioned about, the carbon credit program that, it can be integrated with this induction cook stoves
Yeah.
or electric cooking also. As you also mentioned, 1/3 of the cost of the device or
The beneficiary pays.
okay. And the 2/3 is adjusted through carbon credits,
Yeah,
right?
that we will fund it through the carbon credits which accrue to us, which will be accrued to us over a 5-year period.
Okay, but then again, if let's say, if gets integrated with the government CFA or the incentives program or the subsidy program,
Yeah.
which actually, covers 1/3 capital cost of the device, then the consumer,
No, I think this will see if government program will have its limitations.
right?
And if you want to really scale up such a program, then it has to be self-sustaining. So that's the way we are looking at this. Will supplement it will not be with the government. It will be an independent program.
But let's say for the early birds,
Yeah.
those who want to get, those who want to have this, e-cooking devices. So 1/3 they have to pay, which can be covered through government subsidy, right? So
Right.
the net
So
cost to consumer is zero.
Zero. Yeah, it's
So
possible.
that's a win-win situation if somebody wants to buy prestige, appliances for e-cooking. So that's great to hear, sir, and it's really very encouraging to hear. A lot is happening in the market out there. It's not a new technology. We all know e-cooking is not new. I know it is quite prevalent in Western countries, and they have their own set of challenges, maybe not as great as the challenges that we have. But yes, if we have to really cater to the rural masses and the rural areas.
We are also working with Tata Power in the states where they distribute the power utility. So what they are doing is, as a part of their CSR, they are giving the induction cooktop at subsidized rate to marginalized sections of society as a part of their CSR initiative, because they have a selfish interest that again they will consume the power from their distribution. So
yes,
that we are doing in Orissa actually
so
with them.
that is one thinking that we had, and we have indicated in our report as well. The DISCOMs need to be, one of the main stakeholders in this to actually facilitate this transition, because they are the ultimate kind of, maybe the beneficiary or, facilitator or aggregator of demand or distributor of systems or whatever way, because they have direct access to the consumers, so they can really manage the consumers well and the overall, supply chain kind of. So yes, that's really good kind of direction that we are heading into. And now open the session for questions. So I'd request all the audience, if somebody has a question, please raise your hand, or you can directly speak into the microphone.
Jay, can I add a point here about the carbon thing?
Right.
Yeah. So just to add to what Mr. George said, yes, 30%, I think he mentioned about 1/3 cost can be recovered through carbon finance. This one, I think this carbon financing thing is going to become more beneficial in the years to come. Our currently grid emission factor is 0.71 kg of CO2 per kilowatt hour, and is expected to reduce to about 0.44 in the next 3 to 4 years time. That's the projection because of the huge amount of solar and wind being added into the system, and hydro being added into the system. This one. So I think as on date, probably at 0.71, probably the carbon financing is still not extremely favorable. This one, in some cases it may be this one, but overall, as it reduces to 0.44 or less than 0.5, basically, this one, it is going to become an extremely viable option. This one, so at least the maintenance infrastructure and the associate maintenance infrastructure and the marketing, the expenses and all these things can be taken care of by, if we can make a programmatic intervention, then all these additional expenses, the transaction expenses, can be easily borne out of the carbon fund, and the more than the cost of the device, I think the device cost is not very high. So 2,500 rupees, I think, can be easily affordable. This one, more than that, I think it is the creating the maintenance infra to provide the reliability of the services is more important in the peri-urban and rural areas. In urban area, it is not a big issue. This one. So that's one part of it. And the other part is about whether we can continue with electricity pricing of around on average pricing about 5 rupees per kilowatt hour or not. If it increases beyond 5 rupees, then again it becomes all your calculation will go haywire. This one. So how can we ensure that 5 rupees per kilowatt hour is the average price in the rural areas, not more than that? I'm talking about average. There may be some household who can get electricity at a lower price, this one which the government can subsidize. And that will depend on how we improve the operational efficiency of the distribution companies. I hope in that the RDSS, the operational efficiency of the distribution companies is also improved. I'm not talking about technical efficiency. That will definitely get reduced from 22 to around 10%, but also the service delivery efficiency, including the human resource efficiency. So all these things are very important factor in determining whether how fast we can scale up the electric cooking program.
Yes, sir, indeed. So that is where the two challenges: after sales services, maintenance, and maybe the reliance or the reliability of the grid. And so I think some loads have to be taken off the grid through decentralized systems. So that is where things can come into the picture, can be integrated in certain ways. But one more question for George, sir. Sir, just to just looking at the market size, let's say, if we are talking about 200 million households, rural households, I'm just talking about. Yes, urban households is also are also there, about 100 million in numbers. But from the creating impact point of view, because most of the deaths from indoor air pollution comes in rural areas. So from the impact point of view, let's say to target, let's say 70 or 80% of these 200 million rural households, the kind of e-cooking appliances that would be required. So is the Indian manufacturers kind of geared up for this kind of challenge? Maybe another 15, 16 years. Do we have that kind of capacity to manufacture these kind of the number of devices that we would need going forward?
Just to give you a perspective, we sell around 2 million induction cooktops a year. Total. From our experience, it's largely a auxiliary heat source, energy source in the household. It's not the only energy source. And we have around 30-35% market share. So we are talking of around 6 million induction cooktops being sold. Today, that's what's the capacity. So if you're talking of 200 million, and so we are actually, a lot of work has to be done by the manufacturers. I don't think we'll be ready for that sort of unless a lot of investments are made by the manufacturers themselves. So I think if you talk about penetration of 30-40% of the 200 million households, we are not there yet. I think it will take some time.
But yeah, we're talking about in another 15, 20 years.
Given the moves that EESL is making, they've been engaging with the manufacturers and the program has been launched. So I think surely we can rise to the occasion. Like what they did with LED bulbs.
Yes.
Same thing can happen for electric cooking. I don't see any reason why it can't happen.
Yeah. And is there any kind of R&D or advanced level of R&D work that is going on and in the manufacturer side as well?
Not from most manufacturers, but big manufacturers like us. I think we are the pioneers. We have introduced a lot of innovations, which that's what's kept us ahead of the pack, because we are not price competitive. We'll be costly, given the fact that we are a reputed brand. But we have added a lot of value in the product through our R&D. Like we have something called, induction cooktop, we have a feature in the high-end models where it can be set to the number of whistles of the pressure cooker. So automatically after 3 whistles, you can set it and the induction cooktop goes into keep warm mode without a human intervention. So things like that we have done, which we keep innovating. Otherwise, we can't stay ahead of the rest. So, but not enough is happening from an industry perspective.
Basically, yes. As of now, the scenario is that, but with this increasing focus on yes, on electric cooking, probably industry is also probably gearing up to meet that kind of challenge in another 15-20 years that they are going to anyways face. Because 2047, by then we have to be developed economy. So for that, this is also one of the components I think we need to look at from that perspective. Because being a developed economy, we can't continue cooking on traditional biomass, right? So that transition has to happen. And that is, if not imminent, but that needs to happen over 15, 20 years timeline. So yes, sir, thanks. And there are certain questions, not specific to any specific speaker, but there is some rhetoric probably. Why not so popular solar cooking and drying already proven technologies available in domain? So why not solar cooking being pushed? That is probably the question is. Maybe anybody, maybe Devjit sir, you may want to look at this question. Why this solar cooking technology is not being pushed that ways?
Okay. This one. So I think it's not the case that solar is not being pushed. This one. I think as I said in my this one opening remarks that we really need to look beyond the induction stoves. You cannot have a induction stove of 1 kilowatt or something like that, and then if you are using solar with that, then the cost is becoming very high. This one. So we have to see, and the conventional battery system, this one, or the battery that we are using, this one probably are not very suitable for electric cooking. So we have to go beyond what other types of battery can be used. We have to think about that. We have to do R&D on that. There are thermal batteries, thermal batteries or sodium batteries and other things probably can make a better combination with solar cooker. So those are the type of things. I think the technology, I would say the technology is still evolving. Probably we have to work more at the R&D front and bring out some viable solutions, solar-based viable solutions beyond the solar-based induction stoves. I'm very clear here. This one, we have to have 1.2 kilowatt induction stoves will require a similar type of solar capacity. The entire house load is that much in a rural area, right? This one. So you cannot put the entire the solar panels, the entire house load is replaced with the cooking. Nobody will buy that argument, right? Or buy that model. So I think a lot of work needs to be done here, and we have to see beyond what is being done. We have to think out of the box. The Technical Institute have a big role to play here. This one, going beyond what is being done. I would only say this.
Yeah. So there is a follow-up question from Mr. Hari Natarajan.
Yeah.
So this is in reference to the mini grid. So he's of the opinion that I'm not sure if e-cooking in a mini grid scenario looks at the issue of increased capacity requirements versus the low load factor. Mini grids already struggle with capacity utilization, and adding e-cooking is likely to only increase this challenge.
I think in the chat somebody has already answered that. It's again it depends on where you are having this e-cooking. And I think in Africa, where there is no electricity and mini grids are of much larger capacity, probably e-cooking is being taken into consideration for designing. Whereas in India, most of the mini grids are providing on the lighting, are for lighting use. This one, a 50 kilowatt mini grid probably is not the right capacity to support e-cooking. We have to, I myself and while I was in TERI, we did a project and based on that, we wrote a paper and we said that this one, the driver for mini grid in India, based on a survey of almost 100 experts, we found that productive load and others are the drivers. This one for a success of a mini grid. Right. This one that will also increase the load and can bring in more money for the mini grid operator. This one, but most of the mini grid are of very small capacity. This one, so there is a mismatch. So if we introduce e-cooking, that mismatch increases. So unless we start setting up a megawatt scale mini grid, or at least sub megawatt scale mini grid, say 500 kilowatt, 800 kilowatt, 1 megawatt type of mini grid, I don't know whether they would be suitable to support electric cooking or not. I think we have to test the hypothesis that electric mini grid can support electric cooking. At the current level, I'm not sure whether it can support, but we definitely have to go beyond the current capacity and have larger mini grids. But making them viable is another challenge. We have to see that.
So in my analysis, I have done some analysis factoring into this e-cooking into mini grids. So what we have found is basically at a village level, So there would be additional demand of electricity of around 200 units a day through versus the current supply against the demand from e-cooking as well as the household level demand. In order to meet that additional demand, we would need around 300 kilowatt of solar mini grids or hybrid mini grids thereof. So, but yes, the sizes of the mini grids, need to kind of ramp up, because as of now, the sizes vary from 2 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt, 15 kilowatt, but going beyond 200, 300 kilowatt of mini grids becomes a challenge for the developers. And then the whole, will be a whole lot of, integration issues and everything. And a load management issue, would be one of, because there would be peak demand in just 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening in rural areas. Then what would happen to the generation, in the meantime? So there may be,
Just to add, the other challenge is that if you are having a solar mini grid and if you have to cook food in the evening, you also need a storage. This one, so that will increase the cost. Like storage is the most costly thing in a mini grid now, right? This one, so unless we have lower cost storage, that means the cost of storage has to decrease further. This one, and all these things have to be taken into account to decide whether, at least to start the debate, whether electric cooking can be supported by mini grids or not. So a lot of work needs to be done.
Or the existing grid infrastructure can be used as virtual storage if there is no physical storage required. But for that, the grid needs to be powered all the time.
Absolutely.
It needs to be live all the time.
Absolutely.
So yes, there are several challenges. We have listed out all those challenges. And it's been really wonderful, hearing from all the experts and eminent panelists. Thank you so much. I think we are towards the closing of this. So I would really like to thank you, everyone. But one request, and I exclusively want to make, please feel free to write to us for any kind of inputs, for any kind of feedback on the report, and then we try and rectify or modify, carry out the changes in our report in the next edition. Any questions from the team, sir? From you, from Neha? Any questions? Anything for CSE or general? And from the audience, is there anybody who wants to ask anybody? Please raise your hand, and we can take 1 or 2 questions. We still have 2 minutes to go to wrap this up.
I think, just a quick suggestion. I think the MECS program is also here as participant. You are also doing a lot of good work. CSE has also started working on electric cooking. I think Teddy has also done a lot of work on electric cooking, at least when I was there. This one, I think it's high time that either under the Clean Energy Network or as a separate body, there should be, all stakeholders should come together to have a common agenda of driving electric cooking in India, so that we don't duplicate the same thing and have more focused discussions and can represent the government what needs to be done or what the government should do. A common voice is extremely important. Instead of, say, a voice for induction cook stove, a voice for something else, a voice for something else. So I think that is one of the organizations have to take the lead and bring all the other organizations on board to take it forward.
And probably CLASP is the most kind of relevantly placed organization to take this agenda forward. I think we would all agree, that the approach that the TMG approach works best for this kind of situation.
Right. Just to add, I think there is a Global Electric Cooking Alliance which has been formed. India is also a signatory to it. So probably the alliance that I'm talking about, or the common platform, can also think about being a part of this Global Electric Cooking Alliance, or whatever way. The outcome, it should be outcome oriented, and there should be something some more traction across the entire value chain of electric cooking, and not just on a few components here and there.
Yes, it has to be looked at very holistically.
Yes.
So with that, sir, thank you so much, George sir. Thank you so much for your time. And Devjit sir, thank you so much once again. You have always been helpful. And Neha, thank you so much. And yes, definitely let's meet and see how we can work collaboratively. And Vineet, thanks for putting this everything together.
Thank
And
you.
Noble,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
Jay.
the report, leading the report. And yes, it's been really wonderul, listening to you all. Thank you so much. And please do not forget to download the report and just quickly go through it. And let us
Yeah,
know
the
the
link has been
feedback.
shared in the chat window. So please download.
And
Feel
just
free.
don't download. Please also read it through and let us know the feedback.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be a great, help for us. Yeah, to
That
We have
will
understand.
put
be
our
more.
email IDs in the chat, so you can contact any of us.
Thank you.
Thank you
Noble.
so much. And whatever
Thank you.
questions we left out, we'll try and address those offline.